Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, as I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. There are so many things to talk about on this July 2nd. Remember, on this date in 1776, John Adams suggested this would be our Independence Day. Of course, it happened 2 days later, but the impact is the same. We will, across this country, celebrate 250 years of American independence. It is important to note that although Donald Trump has tried to co-opt this July 4th, the American people, I hope, understand that a July 4th celebration transcends who is President of the United States. Remember, in 1776, we were a nation forming itself. We were a nation determined to provide free elections so that we, as a people, could govern ourselves. Bill Barrow has written an article for the Associated Press. It is an outstanding effort at journalism, and I want to commend Bill Barrow for writing this article. At the same time, I want you all to know that the Associated Press is banned from the White House. That's right. The Associated Press is not allowed now to cover as they used to as part of the press pool. But Bill Barrow has written a fascinating article. The title, Trump Still Has Several Ways to Affect November's Elections. If, in fact, the President of the United States can affect America's elections, we are in deep trouble. By the way, not in the generic sense, but in the particular sense. Whether it is the focus on voter data, which Bill Barrow points out, this president is still trying to centralize voter data and compilation. A terrible idea, because remember the Constitution. The Constitution assigns that to, as you and I know, the states. The states. And then there is the question of the citizenship check. Donald Trump is determined that there are illegals flooding the country, voting in elections, distorting what's happening. Let me be clear. In 2016, Donald Trump suggested that 3 million voters crossed the border into California, and that's the reason he lost the state of California. We know that isn't true. We know that elections need to be free and fair. And checking on citizenship, which frankly has been done, and there is virtually no illegal voting when it comes to non-citizens. It's a minuscule amount. And so we have to understand this president is trying to discredit American elections. And then he's doing something else, something that I find horrifying, and that is executive orders. This president is issuing executive orders right and left. He issued an order just recently trying to ban voting by mail. This is a president of the United States who, frankly, we've got a problem with when it comes to voting. Now, why? Because if you diminish the number of people who are voting, well, the Republicans have an edge. Remember that this Supreme Court, along with this president and this Justice Department, have gutted the Voting Rights Act. The determination to prevent people from voting is a severe problem. And then, of course, it is the president's executive orders. The executive orders that he issues, fiats from on high. Fortunately, the Supreme Court has taken a dim view of these executive orders, but nonetheless, the president persists in issuing them. Let me be clear. As Bill Barrow points out, absentee voting is a staple of U.S. elections. Trump describes the practice incorrectly as allowing fraud. Not only doesn't allow fraud, it makes sure that more people can vote, which is precisely what Donald Trump does not want to have happen. And then he has his Save America Act. And you understand he has put this Housing Act on hold because he said the only thing that's important is his Save America Act, which frankly would limit the rights of people to vote. It is appalling in every single way. And let me point out, we have the November elections coming up. They will be here very soon. And if those elections are not free and fair, we have a problem. We will have a problem with our democracy. I celebrate every July 4th reading the Declaration of Independence and remembering what this country really means. To have Donald Trump co-opt not only July 4th, but also to try to influence American elections, to change the way we vote, to frankly rig the election in favor of the Republicans is to me appalling. I want you all to do me a favor. I want you to Google Bill Barrow, Associated Press, his article on Trump trying to affect the November elections. I want you to read it. I want you to read it thoughtfully and carefully because it is a flashing red light of danger to the American democratic system. Now, don't tell me I'm hysterical. I'm not hysterical. I'm very logical, very precise. I'm very careful in what I say. Is there anyone out there who doubts that the goal of this president is to limit people's right to vote? Is there anybody out there who thinks for a moment that this president is not trying to rig the election in favor of the Republicans? Yesterday, I gave a talk here in San Francisco, and I was asked specifically whether I trust the election process. Let me point out that one of the questions that is being posed now is this president's determination to affect the elections, and a question was posed, will he send troops out to monitor elections around the country, essentially to intimidate people? May I tell you, we have only a few months to go before November, but we better be sure that that kind of intimidation, this kind of action, is prevented. I am concerned about the Republicans bowing on redistricting, and I want to point out to you that in a Republican state like Indiana, the President of the United States, because there were 7 members of the legislature in Indiana who voted against his redistricting plan, the President fielded candidates to oppose them. 5 of the 7 survived, were recalled, did not survive Donald Trump's assault, and only 2 survived. And one of the questions that we have to pose seriously is what happens when fear and intimidation are used in an election in order to determine an outcome. States must reclaim their right to control what happens and how it happens. And one of the things that is very reassuring is the Republicans and Democrats seem to agree. They want elections to be handled state by state. We have no national elections. We have a date in which states go to the polls and cast their ballots. And then we have a system which works. And I want to tell you one of the most disturbing things, and I want to commend Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, because he has been putting up on his feed all the times he has asked Trump nominees for federal judgeships who won the election of 2020. And their answer is, well, the election was certified that Joe Biden won. And Blumenthal stops them and says, wait a minute, I'm not asking you who was certified in the election. I'm asking you a more precise question. Who won? Who won the popular vote? And of course, these nominees for the federal bench, who are supposed to be independent, well, there's no independence. What they do is exactly what Donald Trump says. Donald Trump, they point out, was the winner in 2024. But in 2020, they will not say anything other than that Joe Biden was certified the winner. Doesn't this disturb you? Doesn't it make you wonder about the integrity of these people being put on the bench by Donald Trump? Isn't it of great concern that we now find ourselves in the position of doubting whether or not the November elections are going to be fair and free? What does it mean when you have a Justice Department working assiduously to subvert the American elections? My answer to you is we must be alert to it. And I do want to, again, refer you to Bill Barrow's article dealing with this subject. The Associated Press, all you got to do is go to the AP Wire and take a look. But I want you to remember as well that even as Donald Trump tries to subvert the American elections, let's be clear, he's also eliminating our press access. The fact that the Associated Press is not part of the White House press pool should disturb each and every one of us. Now, as we enter this July 4th celebration, I wanted to raise these questions with you. We had better be sure that our elections work. Otherwise, well, frankly, the very threat to our democracy will have achieved its goal. And maybe it already has. Because if an article has to be written describing what Donald Trump is trying to do to subvert the American elections, well, my friends, that should be enough to raise our red flags, our concerns. But I would be remiss this morning if I did not spend a few minutes on foreign policy. I want to do it because there has been a vigorous assault by the Russians on Ukraine yet again. And the United States is standing passively by while Ukraine is suffering these slings and arrows, these missiles flying from Russia. Now, it's true, the Ukrainians are answering. They are hitting Russia as well. But have you seen any effort to try to resolve this problem? And of course, Donald Trump claimed he would solve it within 24 hours of being president, if not before his election. He said his personal relationship with Vladimir Putin would make all the difference in the world. In fact, Donald Trump is still defending Vladimir Putin. There is, to me, something terribly wrong. As we celebrate America's independence, we'd better stop and think about how the world views us. We are that shining city on the hill, which Ronald Reagan described. We are that brilliant nation whose self-determination brought us our independence. If we allow a president of the United States or a Justice Department or anyone else to subvert our faith in American democracy, then July 4th will not be a day of celebration. It will be a day of mourning. Now, some of you are going to say to me, John, you're being too harsh. I'm not being too harsh. Whether it is the president's determination to focus on voter data and centralize it federally, whether it is his demand for a citizenship check on people who are clearly citizens of the United States, whether it is his determination to issue executive orders, which, frankly, should have no binding impact because they are orders, not laws. The fact that this president is determined to pass the Save America Act, which is a subversion of American democracy. And thank God, Democrats and Republicans are standing up to just say no. And of course, all of this focuses on the November election, who we are as a people, whether or not we can have faith in American democracy. My friends, this is an impassioned plea on my part. Let us be alert. Let us understand. And most important of all, if you are a Republican, make sure that members of your political party understand what this president is doing to subvert American democracy. No, Mr. President, I don't suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. What I suffer from is democracy. You know, Alfred E. Smith, the former governor of New York, who ran for president in 1928 as a Democrat, once said, "The only cure for the ills of democracy is more democracy." Mr. President, I know you're a Republican and Al Smith was a Democrat, but for heaven's sake, remember that you are assigned the task constitutionally of preserving American democracy. Let the AP back into the White House. Read, my friends, what Bill Barrow has written. Think about what is happening in our great country. And remember, on July 4th, it should not be just a day of celebration. It must be a day of awareness, of concern for the future of this great country. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. You can write a review on Apple Podcasts, drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify, and click any of the links in the show notes to connect with me on social media. I hope you will do that before tomorrow, Tomorrow is Friday. We will have question and answers. I want to know whether you agree or disagree with me. I want to know whether you are worried, as I am worried, about the future of American democracy. So tomorrow, get your question and answers in. Go-Go Zoger is ready for them, and I'm ready for them. Remember, please, to share this episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, of course, is our goal. The show has been getting so much positive attention that we're excited to bring on the advertising support that we have. We have a number of people in the advertising area who are very interested in coming on our program as well. We're delighted to have them. And remember, these advertisers help us create more opportunities for Around the Political World with John Rothman. I want to say a special word of thanks to Go-Go Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. And make sure you get your questions to her. I can't wait. All right, tomorrow's Friday, and I'm looking forward to all of the things that will happen in the news, plus your questions. I am John Rothman. I will see you tomorrow right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman. Have a great day.